to Grazing Hell, the one and only podcast made by a cow. And today I've got a lovely guest, Mary Clare from Faith Evolving.
Hello. It is me, Mary Clare from Faith Evolving.
Here. Exactly. And do you want to just tell the people, Faith Evolving is your channel, right? So do you want to tell us about your work and what you do?
Yeah, so Faith Evolving, I have a long, very academic sounding mission statement.
No, go for it.
That's not helpful, but it's called Faith Evolving aims to be a resource for Christians seeking faith in their evolving context. But my shorter version is just how to be a Christian without being an asshole.
Yes.
And so it actually started as a school project in undergrad for a class. I had recently discovered Christian YouTube and just the wackery that's involved in all of that, and especially Girl Defined, Paul and Morgan, and I was like, what is this? And then I discovered Goddess Gray, and I was like, oh, I want more of this. I want more of her channel. And then I was like, there aren't very many.
No.
I'm gonna make one, but I didn't really grow up in purity culture. So a lot of that side of what people have called progressive Christianity, I can't relate to. But the more academic side of things, I really like what is heresy? What are these big words people throw around, and how can we make it accessible? So another thing that I say is I'm going to seminary, which is grad school for Jesus. And my aim is to kind of Robin Hood theology. So learn it all and then be and here it is for free. And also some books by people with doctorates that I do not have, writing more about it, more intellectually.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because I mean, I am someone who is not religious, but I love watching stuff about theology. I just find it really fascinating, the history of it and stuff. And I think even though your target audience are Christians, I still find your videos just really interesting from an academic point of view, just learning about, the one, your one about sort of the history of virginity and that as a concept was really interesting. And I think that's one of the good things about the progressive side of Christian YouTube, maybe not so much the more evangelical side. I think I would say I don't learn from theirs. I more get startled and a bit shell-shocked, a bit
I do too.
I'm burning in hell, got it.
I think they probably think I'm burning in hell. It's there's a lot of things you gotta tick off. That's the only thing. It started out, my target audience, I was hoping for Christian teens or something that are going towards that side of Christian YouTube.
Okay, catch them before they
but that hasn't been what my target audience is. Mainly you can look at YouTube analytics, it's millennial women who used to be Christian, and it's really interesting. And I really love reading the comments of people being oh, this reminds me of this in my upbringing that I don't know anything about, because most of the people that are searching for Christian content, when they come across my channel, they are very angry. They are very angry at me.
Do you would you say, because this is something Goddess Grey Brenda experiences, it seems as if very militant Christians are meaner to other Christians than they are to someone like me, who's non-religious and queer, but they'll be meaner to you as a queer Christian than me. Have you experienced that?
Definitely not on the same scale that she has, just because my channel is smaller. The only video that I really have a lot of heat on is I made a video about Steven Crowder.
Yes,
and
I saw.
Algorithm picked it up by Steven Crowder fans, and so since those are the ones clicking on it, it keeps getting recommended to them. And so every couple of weeks I'll just get 4 comments of people just telling me I'm dumb and I'm stupid and I'm not a real Christian, and that Steven Crowder would pummel me to a pit.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, for context, this video, the title is something along the lines of I want to box Steven Crowder. Obviously that's a joke, right? Any person in their right mind would see that, but one of the top comments was oh, you know, he's 6'2" and blah blah blah. Like, you actually shouldn't box him. He'd beat you. And it's like, yeah, I mean, she's joking. And it's just like, how did this get recommended to the worst people?
I'm making a joke about how literally so many YouTubers are like, I'm going to start a boxing career.
Yeah, that's the joke.
And they're like, you're going to get killed. And I'm like, I don't want to actually box him, and I don't want to actually debate him. And I also know that they haven't been watching to the end of the video.
No,
where I talk,
of course
like,
not.
I add in like a little bit of, to use a Christian term, grace to the whole situation.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can see in the analytics that they aren't watching to that point, and they just...
Yeah, I mean, even the people that like you don't watch till the end, let alone the people that are there to just shitpost. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you started about a year ago, right? Is that the correct-ish timeline?
Yeah, I made my channel October 27th, and my first video was November 27th. Sorry, I just completely cut you off.
No, you didn't. No, I was kind of more just thinking aloud. No. I was more just thinking aloud and just sort of wondering, like, which video of yours do you feel like was kind of the hardest to make? Not necessarily emotionally, but just like research and, I don't know, length and that kind of thing.
It's actually one of my more recent ones. It was, I can't even remember the title of it right now. It was the second of the anti-vax ones.
Yes.
It's my longest
with the TikTok.
With
the girl, the blonde girl who looks like Tommy Lauren. It's like, you can burn.
She does look like Tommy Lauren.
Yeah.
Oh, it's why aren't Christians getting vaccinated? And there was another video in front of that called America's Anti-Vaccine History. And originally I was going to make those one video. And I was trying to write the script, and I was like, I need to just film to be able to get a video out. And then I did the second one, and just trying to get all of the nuance of everything in there and be able to capture everything that's going on. And then I think the big part about my editing process is the rough cut takes no time at all. I've gotten that down to a science. But then adding in all of the polish and the little jokes and like the Ken Burnsing thing takes up so much time. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, why did I put myself into this editing hole? Because it's fun to edit those things, but I'm like, I could pump out videos so much more often if I didn't do this, but here we are.
But they really add to it though. They really do. And I love those little embellishments, you know. I think I know, yeah, I know it takes a long time, but they're definitely worth it. They don't go unappreciated.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So you also recently did a collab with Jen, Fundy Fridays. How did that happen? Tell us the story of that.
Absolutely, like, luck, chance, the grace of God. I don't know. I was watching their Classically Abby video, and I just like left some comment about like, we stand James in this household. And
we did?
They replied, and it was actually James who replied, and he was like, said something about, oh, thank you so much. We just watched your videos and we really like your channel. And I was like, oh my gosh. So just on a whim, I sent Jen an email of like, do you want to collab? And she said something along the lines of like, yes, bitch. And so we started working and made a video, and also are just like straight up friends now. It's kind of fun.
I love that.
It's like a YouTube mentor. Whenever I have YouTube questions, I'm like, what is this? What do I do about this? Sometimes they text me asking me theology questions. It's fun. I like it.
I love that. Exactly. I mean, I love how there's like this little community. And for listeners who don't know the context, Jen is Fundy Fridays. It's like a Fundy Snark channel. And Fundy Snark is like fundamentalist Christian kind of snark, but in a, what's the word? Not necessarily lighthearted, because some of the topics are heavy, but she's not trying to just be a dick to people. Like the point is to sort of say, let's all be better, that kind of thing, whilst being funny. Because there are elements of the Fundy Snark community that have gone a bit too far, where they just like harass Christian figures who, you know, deserve criticism, but there's a line, right? Yeah, like, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I mean, I know you didn't grow up in fundamentalism, but as someone who, you know, knows the world of Christianity more, what do you think is so universally appealing about the big Christian channels? Like, why are there so many more channels like Paul and Morgan, Girl Defined, Sarah Therese, etc., than someone like Brenda?
I think I think because there are more Christians that are like that.
Okay.
So, and also, I think the other big thing about it is when you are in like those types of like evangelical or fundamentalist circles, you are supposed to only engage in Christian content. So, of course, if you're going on YouTube, you're going to seek out Christians. Whereas if you are more on the side of Christianity, or that's using such binary language, but if you aren't in those circles,
yeah,
you give yourself the permission to watch other content, and being a Christian isn't like your whole identity at all times at the forefront of your mind. So like, that's why I never came across that side of YouTube, because when I went on YouTube, I was watching like Curtis Connor, Cody Ko, that sort of thing. So.
Right. Okay. So I'm guessing you've heard of Pure Flix.
Yes.
Which is like Netflix, but pure. Which they missed an opportunity, for it to be called Crucifix. Come on.
They should have.
Come on.
They should have.
Absolute missed opportunity. Do you find, I don't know, how does that kind of Christian content land with you in your sort of view of Christianity? Does it resonate with you, or do you find that it's a bit misrepresentative, or I don't know, how do you feel about it?
I have dipped my toes into what are now Pure Flix films before they had the streaming service. So like there's a movie, Facing the Giants, which is a football movie that I don't know, I maybe have seen the full thing once, but there's one clip of them like doing some football thing across the field. I don't know, I did theater in high school. And they played it like all the time for sermons, or I did upward basketball for a year, but my siblings also did it, which is basically like rec community basketball that they had in churches, and at halftime they would like do like a mini sermon. I don't know. This might resonate with other people. I don't know if it's anywhere other than the States who grew up in Christianity, but upward basketball is a thing. They played that video sometimes. I read Heaven is for Real in middle school, which is, I don't know if that was Pure Flix, but it was like a book about this little boy who like died or was near death and like allegedly went to heaven. But I saw God's Not Dead in theaters with my youth group.
Oh, wow.
And recently I rewatched it with some of my seminary friends, and we were just ripping it to shreds because it's called Pure Flix, but it's filled with like white supremacy and like Christian supremacy and all of these like really ugly, vile things.
Like with the character who's raised Muslim. In fact, do you want to give like a brief synopsis of God is Not Dead for the listeners in case they haven't seen the masterpiece?
It's like a Love Actually style, multiple different stories that all converge at a Newsboys concert. But the big thing is there's like this atheist professor who's teaching philosophy, and this Christian student, and he's got to say that God's dead, and he's like, no, God's not dead. But there's like a bunch of other random subplots all at once. And then the professor, spoiler alert, gets hit by a car at the end, and right before he dies, he commits his life to Christ, and everyone's like, this is a victory. And it's like, a man just died. How is
got
this
hit
a
by
victory?
a car. And then I remember there was also this bit where he is like, oh, I don't believe in God because maybe either his mum died or something like that. Like someone died, and it was like it was just a bit like, could this be more cliche?
How can you not believe in God when you're angry at him? That implies he exists. And it's like, I don't want to be doing this with you all right now. I can't.
Yeah. Oh gosh, so you saw that with your youth group. So how old were you at the time when that came out? I can't remember what year it was.
I was a freshman in high school. I remember this because they filmed the movie right before like iPhone switched to iOS. I think it was like 7 or something, where it's the interface that we have now. It was the older interface. And so the movie had that older interface, and so it looked so outdated, and it had this sort of like prophetic kind of thing to it. But
I love that. Yeah. Well, this is the thing, and I think that's why it's, I don't know, how do I explain it? But like, I feel like there could be, I mean, I'm not Christian, so I haven't looked that deeply, but I feel like there probably are like good Christian movies that aren't cringe and really nerdy, but unfortunately, like, God is not dead is the thing that people, I think, or at least non-Christians think of when someone says Christian movie. Unfortunately, that is what hops to mind. So are there like things, pieces of art, like sort of religion related, that you think do resonate more with your experience of?
The musicals do it well.
Okay.
There's definitely things to critique in the musicals, but they're not so blatantly Pure Flix. So like Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, I'm a sucker for Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, Jesus Christ Superstar, yeah.
Godspell.
God banging. Yeah, okay.
And then The Shack. I haven't engaged with The Shack since I was in high school, but it does some interesting theology that has some depth to it. And especially in the movie adaptation, the casting adds some diversity in how people can imagine the Trinity, which is very nice. So those are the only things that come to mind, though.
Yeah,
most of it's pretty Pure Flix. Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's, I mean, how do I say this? I wonder if part of that is that it's like, okay, here's the thing. In the UK, we have Christians, right? But like, we don't really have that many, you know, the stereotype in the US of like the evangelical Christian. We really don't have many of those in the UK. Like, Christians here are more, in my experience, are more like you and Brenda, like pretty chill, just really into the, you know, it's just important to them. They enjoy it, but they're not like trying to take away anyone's rights. I don't know. It's just, I don't know what it is. Like, what is the connection between the US and like fundamentalist Christianity? I don't know. Is there, what's going on there?
There is the history of the American church and American Christianity in particular is really wrapped up in racism. There's a book about it called The Color of Compromise by Jemar Tisby that I could not recommend more.
Okay.
Just about how they've always been intertwined. I was recently, there was a womanist lecture at my seminary so womanist theology, so feminism, so they're like feminist theology, so feminists doing theology, and then Black women were like, here are some things that you missed because the feminists were mainly white women, and so it's a different lens of looking at things, and self-named womanist theology. And this lecturer was talking about how the faith is passed down, and the people who were lynching other people after church passed on their faith. And their faith was also passed down to them from other people. And so there's a really ugly legacy that people are very resistant to dismantling.
I mean, it must be hard to contend with if you're, and I mean, we say this about any aspect of, it's no secret that I think a lot of Christians have issues with homophobia and stuff, but I think that is something I see talked about not as much. And I don't know, as you say, like, they don't really want to contend with it. And I don't know if part of it is that, I don't know why they, because I guess, is it biblical at all to, like, do you think the Bible has issues with racism, or do you think it's just interpretations?
Oh, yeah, the Bible definitely does. Also, just real quick, the lecturer, she also has a book called If God Still Breathes, Why Can't I? By Angela N. Parker is her name. But cool. The Bible definitely has issues with racism and just like oppression in general. But it also has instances of overcoming oppression and saying that oppression is bad. And there's this like sort of like push and pull. And a lot of it comes down to interpretation. Like, you can really interpret the Bible however you want. And whenever you're reading it, you're putting your experience into it. So you have to be very careful with all of that. But I'm in one of my Bible classes right now. We're making our way, through the Bible, and we read an article by, of course, now again, I can't remember the person's name, but I can send it to you to bring it up. An indigenous Christian writing about how the conquering there's like some conquering in the Bible, and it's like blatantly against indigenous people. And so, like, what do you do with that? White people aren't going to have the answer, so don't try to come up with an answer. Just listen and realize that it's an issue and sit with it for a while.
We all have these like really specific images of what Christians are, or religious people in general, or any ideology. And I think obviously that's bad, obviously. And I think, I don't know, what kind of how would that reflect your experience? Because you obviously you're a queer Christian, right? So how have you had to grapple with that, the idea of being a real Christian or whatever?
I think part of why there's a diversity in Christians is because Christianity has also been very wrapped up in colonialism, and so forcing Christianity on different people. But it also sometimes stuck. Like, there's a really strong faith and like Christian tradition within the different like Black church traditions. I don't want to like group them all into one, because there's a lot of different denominations within that. And there's a lot more there, but I can't speak on it because for audio listeners, I'm have red hair and very white skin. So like
very Irish
I can't speak on it. Yes. And as a queer Christian, I am constantly in awe of especially some of my classmates who went through hell by their families of origin or their churches, and they've somehow still retained their faith enough to go on and be faith leaders. And there's something really powerful about that. And I love learning from them, because in my background, like, I come from NPR listening liberals. Like, it was never really an issue that I was queer, and it also took me a while to figure it out. And if I'm being honest, it doesn't impact my life a lot. Like, I don't experience a lot of oppression just based off of how I interact with the world and the world interacts with me. I'm in like a straight passing relationship. But for trans Christians especially, or just anyone like existing within an institution that hates them, is just this powerful resistance. of just constantly being like, no, you're wrong. Like, God still loves me. And like, this is my like living proof of that. And I think we need to pass the microphone to them more in the way that they read the Bible and the way they do theology, because they do it in really interesting ways and like to flip our common readings on their heads.
So we were talking in our messages actually about a lovely show, an epic show. It's not Pure Flix, but it is on Netflix, and that show is Riverdale. Now, people might be wondering, what's this got to do with anything? But there's a plot. I'm really sorry if you haven't seen Riverdale, because you're going to be so confused. Even if you have seen Riverdale, you're confused because the show makes no sense. Anyone remember the Sisters of Quiet Mercy? Woo! It's a convent. Convent. I can never say it, but everyone's sent there. Pretty much all the girls are sent there, apart from Veronica. What are your thoughts on that whole storyline?
Oh, I'm a sucker for Riverdale. I remember seeing like all the clips on Twitter, and I was like, I want to watch this show, but I don't want anyone to know that I want to watch this show. And then in quarantine, I said, it's time.
So you were late to the party.
Yeah, I started watching it in 2021.
Oh,
like within this year, because I was like, this show is ridiculous and I want to watch it.
Yeah, no, fair.
I watched it for the pure, like, just like campy experience of it all.
Yeah, the memes. Yeah.
The Sisters of Quiet Mercy, they first pop up in season 1, and they're portrayed as just like this like run-of-the-mill convent that Betty's sister Polly is sent to because she is pregnant with twins from her dead boyfriend that we later find out is her cousin. Welcome to Riverdale.
I forgot about that.
And she's like very like lifeless when she's there, but that's all we really get from all of that. She ends up leaving and giving birth to the children named
and throwing them in a fire at some point, but we won't.
Yeah, we'll get there. Their names are Juniper and Dagwood, so this is what we have to work with.
God, yeah, they are, aren't they?
We also find out that Betty's mom was also pregnant in her like high school years, and also went to the Sisters of Quiet Mercy when she was pregnant. So then in season 2, we encounter them again because Cheryl is sent there for conversion therapy. So this is where we start to see the wild thing about Riverdale is they take real world things that have happened in history and they try to make commentary on it, but it's Riverdale, so they don't do it well. And so like conversion therapy is a real thing that happens and it's awful.
Yeah, it's trauma.
But they don't like super portray it well. Like like they show like the trauma involved, but they make it so far away and dramatic that it like fictionalizes it too much, I think. But now you're kind of getting the vibe of who the Sisters of Quiet Mercy are. It also reminds me of the Magdalene Laundries in Ireland. They don't exist anymore, but Joni Mitchell has a song about them, and I am a huge Joni Mitchell fan. And so it was this place named Magdalene after Mary Magdalene because there's a mythos that she was a prostitute, but all we know is that she had 7 demons that were cast out, and because we literally demonize sex work, we're like, that means she was a prostitute. So Magdalene Laundries, where they sent quote unquote fallen women, so women who were like pregnant out of wedlock or just rumored to be like, I don't know, provocative women. Yes.
Unruly.
And they basically like worked them to death, and they were usually put in unmarked graves. Very horrific. So the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, I feel like could be a play off of that, and then with the added conversion therapy,
but make it camp and Riverdale.
But make it camp. Yeah. And then we get to season 3 of Riverdale. I think some of the best television ever made. I am dressed in a flannel to honor Archie in the Canadian wilderness when he got attacked by a bear, and a beanie to honor Jughead, and red lipstick to honor Cheryl. And here we are. So, season 3 of Riverdale. How many cults?
Oh god, the cults, yeah.
There are cults plural. So I don't even know where to start. So we'll start with the farm. Keep the Sisters of Quiet Mercy
farm
in the back of your brain. The farm is like a Fundy Fridays level cult. They literally give it away at in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Betty calls it like a Heaven's Gate style cult, which not like super okay to say in a teen show, just drop that in there, but here we are. And that's going on. Her whole family gets sucked in, including Juniper and Dagwood. And it's a very interesting playoff of how religion can control people. But at the same time, there's griffins and gargoyles, which is just D&D, but it's used...
Dungeons and Dragons, yeah.
It's used as like a tool of control for religion, which is interesting to me because in the 80s, Dungeons and Dragons was demonized by the Christian church, like the Chick Track, like the cartoon of like, and also there's a adaptation of that in a short film called Dark Dungeons, about how it is of the devil. And so they kind of combined that it's of the devil, but also with this Christian imagery. And it was born from the Sisters of Quiet Mercy, who, hold up, let me bring up like the Riverdale Wikipedia page. I was looking at this last night.
It's so messy.
It's so messy.
To look it up.
I tried to I watched your podcast about Pretty Little Liars. With Shanspeare, where she makes a PowerPoint, and I was like, I should make a PowerPoint. And I was like, I don't even know how to visualize this. And if the Riverdale writers could fly by the seat of their pants, I'm gonna fly by the seat of my pants.
Exactly. They didn't bring order, so why should you have to bring order to their chaos?
So let's go to the history tab of the Archieverse wiki. So that's what we're working with.
Archieverse is the name of the comics that made Riverdale, by the way, in case people are wondering.
Back in the founding days of Riverdale, the nunnery that would later be known as the Sisters of Quiet Mercy helped the townsfolk to find young girls to sacrifice for the maple harvest. It was during a time of dark arts and alleged witchcraft, so it's easy for the people to find girls to sacrifice. In the early years of the establishment, the sisters designed an exercise creating a fantasy world for the patients designed to instill terror to control them. Although it quickly got out of hand, they pursued it ultimately by creating Griffins and Gargoyles, a game born of madness. And so it was technically never like a Christian or like Catholic nunnery. It was always a front. They also something with booze during Prohibition also happened there. I couldn't find the episode where all this happens, but it is
so much
wild. And it turns out that they are also giving the patients drugs so that they could use the Griffin or the Gargoyle King to instill that fear and to control them.
And it's like candy, isn't it? The drugs,
it's like candy. And it also gives me the Queen's Gambit vibes, but it's Riverdale.
Yes.
So it's not good, whereas the Queen's Gambit is. And it turns out they just send them into this room with a gargoyle statue and they imagine everything.
Yeah,
so you can kind of see where the religious criticisms coming in. They call the Gargoyle King my savior. Christianity is often used as a scare tactic. So it's really interesting, but they just rush past it because there's other random shit happening, like Archie being in a illegal fight club in the prison that he was put in.
Veronica has a speakeasy even though she's not old enough to drink.
Le Bon Nuit.
Yeah, exactly. Le Bon Nuit. Oh god, yeah, she's so annoying. They're all annoying, all the characters. Well, this is the thing. I'm like, did they do? I don't think, like, as you say, it could have been a good, interesting commentary, but I honestly don't think that's even what they were trying to do. I think they're literally just like, you know how, what's it like, that saying where it's like chimpanzees type and then eventually something comes out. You know, it's like, I think that's kind of it. They're just like, we're just going to throw in everything, every plot, everything, and something might come out of it.
And I love
that's
it
kind of
so
what it was.
much. I love it.
I mean, it's chaotic.
So much.
It's not, yeah, I mean, it's such a weird show because, like, season 1 was genuinely good, like a genuinely good teen show. And then from there, it's like, they just lose it. They just lost the plot, but they won't let it go.
Their swim team was called the Aquaholics. Was it ever good, Tara?
Was it?
Yeah, that's in episode 1. I was watching it and I was like, we're just going to breeze past that? We're never going to do anything with that?
Well, okay, when I say it was genuinely good, I mean, like, it was fun. It was like, it was a bit cheesy, but, like, it was cute and it was a bit gripping and the aesthetics are gorgeous, you know? Like, it's filmed, I believe it's filmed in Canada or somewhere cold and very foresty. You know, and the writing was not its worst. So that is something.
I think the campiness elevates it. I was watching a video last night in preparation for this. And of course, again, don't remember what it is. I can send it to you. And in it, he talks about how the wackier the writing gets, it goes from, like, in the bell curve from being mediocre to, like, the Room level, just cult classic chaos. Like,
exactly.
I dropped out of school in the whatever grade to run drugs for my grandma. That means you haven't experienced that. What is it? I need to know this. The epic highs and lows of high school football. Epic. You haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football.
That means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football.
If that's not epic writing, I don't know what is.
It might be my favorite show. I love it.
Only thing I would say, though, is that now it's gotten to the point after the time jump. I mean, I stopped watching, like, mid-season 5. And the thing that bums me out, it just feels like at this point, it's not even funny anymore. I don't know. I personally think it's got a little bit boring now. I don't know how far you've got.
I got to halfway through season 4, and it's gotten a bit boring.
Well, I won't.
I do not care if it's spoiled. Like,
okay.
It'll still be a ride. Yeah, I know there's a time jump.
Yeah. It's just kind of, I think, them not being in high school, even though they were never really in high school anyway, because how the hell did these kids have time to go to school, is my question.
That's, in season 4, they tried to bring that back in, and it's like, that's not why we're here.
No.
I think season 3, I don't know how they could get better than season 3.
So what were the main plot lines in season 3 again? So season 2 is Black Hood.
Yeah.
Season 3 is...
Season 3, if you go by character standards, Betty is kind of leading the farm plot about the Edgar Evernever, played by Chad Michael Murray. I said, this is not how I remembered a Cinderella story.
His daughter, Evelyn, turns out to be his wife.
And we just...
Not actually his daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like an organ harvesting scheme. Okay.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Then there's also the Griffins and Gargoyles, which is kind of run through Jughead, who's also like a gang leader at this point.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then also Archie is thrown into prison by Veronica's dad. So he has to, he's in prison, then he escapes prison. Then it's just...
The cursed... The scene, the cursed scene where they do Jailhouse Rock, the cheerleaders, the high schoolers, and all the prisoners are like...
Same episode as the epic highs and lows of high school football. Same episode. Near the same scenes. Like, I'm pretty sure they're within, 10 minutes of each other.
Probably, yeah.
He escapes. He's got a whole feud with Hiram. A bunch of sheriffs get shot. The town gets shut down because, Veronica's parents are trying to take over everything. When Archie's up in the wilderness, I cannot talk about him getting attacked by a bear enough. It's like half my personality at this point. He comes back to town. He's trying to get revenge. That's also when they have the Heathers episode. One of their musical episodes that they're known for.
Yeah. They have a bunch of musical episodes.
I hate to say it, but when it got to the chorus of 17 and Cole Sprouse started like hitting those high notes, I did not expect this. I literally gripped my chest. I was aghast. But
I'm going to be honest, I can't watch the musical episodes. It's too much cringe. I can't handle it. I just can't do it.
it's what I live for.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, there's a like a threshold, and the first musical episode, like within the first 5 minutes, did it for me, and I was like, you know what? Whenever there's a musical episode, I'll just skip it because I can't handle it. Spine chilling, cringe for me. That's
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
The Heathers one it's cream of the crop. Because at the end, like half the town who's been converted, they stand up and they're just like,
oh yes, I remember that, the clapping. They can't just clap like normal
Iconic.
people. Yeah, they don't just do this like normal people. They go like all in unison, and it's
To
like,
feel
why?
just peak menacing.
Oh my god, so to go back to either season 1 or 2, I think 2, the first musical episode, I like skipped to the end because again, threshold. That's the one where Moose's girlfriend gets murdered and is like put on stage. Just,
Yeah.
do you remember that?
Yeah, I was like, this escalated so
This
quickly.
is camp. This is like, you know, very camp horror movie kind of.
I mean, it was
amazing.
They were putting on the musical Carrie, so I don't know why we didn't see it coming, but
Still, though,
Still.
for Riverdale, I was like, oh, they're taking it a step further.
I mean, they escalated very quickly by like right away. Next season, serial killer.
Exactly, I know.
And you're like, where can you go from here? They said 2 cults.
Gargoyle King.
Gargoyle King. Oh, and the Griffin Queen. The Griffin Queen is a warrior queen. That's a Betty quote.
No, too cringe. Oh god, it gives me literal heebie-jeebies.
They do have
And
a fun episode. Oh, sorry.
No. Go on. Which
They have a
episode?
really fun episode where they play their parents in it.
Yeah,
like it goes
and
back
they play
in time.
the game. You know the
Yeah, and that episode's kind of fun. Like they also have like a noir episode as well. I love
Yes.
it when they just have
Spice it
fun
up.
with it. Yeah. They're like, we know what we're doing. It's chaos.
That being said, though, are we bad people for enjoying this because the actors are being held hostage?
The actors are being held hostage by their contracts.
Well, not literally. Well, kind of. They
I know
all
that
hate
they hate it.
Yeah, I think they are kind of locked in because it seems as if they're trapped. In interviews, the way they talk about it. Like, so this, I learned this from my friend, Friendly Space Ninjas video on Riverdale. He did like a 2-hour, 20-minute video on Riverdale. It's an epic video essay. It's fantastic. It's the most thorough roasting of Riverdale. And he explains like what the problems with it are. And he talks about, oh, I don't know if you're there yet, but the scene where they're around. Okay, so you know that night?
Yes.
I'm getting lost. Yeah, anyway, I'm getting lost. But basically, you know where they're around the fire and there's that clip with Veronica, Archie, and Betty almost naked and they're around the fire and they're talking about Jughead as if he's dead. Literally the reason that happened is because Cole Sprouse was like, I'm not filming at, 4 a.m. in the freezing cold. I'm not doing it. I think he was like really done with their shit. And I don't know, this might be a step further, but like that might be part of the reason why they came up with the whole Jughead's dead, but not really side plot.
Just to write around it.
Yeah, that's how messy and just freaking. That just says it all, does it not? So yeah.
What was the original scene gonna be?
I don't know,
Whose beanie were they
actually.
gonna throw into the fire then?
Well, yeah, I think they just make it up as they go along. That must be it.
That's what the video I was watching. It was like 44 minutes, but still a very good roasting.
There's
He
a
was
lot
like,
to say. There's a
His
lot
whole
to...
argument.
Yeah, I mean, it is... What a show, eh? I mean, it will go down in history. So, I don't know about you, but I feel like this has been a delightful exchange. I've had a hoot, and you've almost convinced me to rewatch Riverdale, but only up to, like, the middle of season 4.
Yeah, you only really need season 3. If
Yeah.
you're rewatching, if you're watching from the beginning, there's so much lore
I love
that you
season
have to
1
pick
just
up.
because... Yeah. Season 1 is my personal favourite, but yeah, season 3 for the chaos. If you want that good old chaos, yeah.
So many of the iconic quotes are from that season.
True. Some very cringe. Some good cringe. Oh my god, and Betty had a brother who was fake, but then she had a real one who was like in the FBI, and her mum was in the cult pretending to be for the FBI, and it's like...
And then
we
weren't
just
those,
not?
didn't the fake brother and the real brother end up being in love or something?
Yep.
I hate it here.
Chick and Charles.
Charles.
Charles. But there's so much. You could just, your brain can't store it all. Like, it's just too much, you know?
It's great escapism, though.
It is. It definitely is. And speaking of escapism, I don't know what kind of segue that was, but if people want to get some entertainment, tell them where they can find you, where they can follow you.
Yeah, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Faith Evolving, and then the only socials that I have are for my Instagram so far. It's the only thing I've created. More to come, probably. Also, just trying to stay afloat with the workload. But Faith Evolving Project is my Instagram because Faith Evolving was taken. So, yeah.
Alas, well, the good ones are always taken, aren't they?
They are.
Shall we say goodbye to the people in my standard way? I don't know if you're aware of my goodbyes. I like to say goodbye like in Toy Story 2, where we go bye-bye. Bye-bye now, but we don't have to do it in sync. Yeah, people always get stressed. They're like, I don't know if I can do it in sync. And I'm like, it's okay. Just put your own spin on it, you know? Just bring your own flavour to it. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. You know, rate and review if you enjoyed it on Apple and Spotify and on YouTube. Make sure to leave nice comments and check out Mary Clare's channel. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Well, you won't, because you've got stuff to do. You've got a lot.
I'm the new co-host. Surprise.
Exactly. But yeah, shall we, in 3, 2, 1, do our bye-bye? Okay. In 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.